To enjoy this and other great episodes on Patreon, check out the link in the description and subscribe via the Black Kluge tier for full access to over 100 exclusive episodes. For those of you who would like some QF swag on Teepublic, t-shirts, magnets, mugs, what have you, also click on the link in the description.
What is the big deal? You are so uptight.
I don't want to be part of any Hollywood establishment. I don't want to meet Hollywood people. I don't want to have anything to do with them. My wife wants to go to these parties and stuff. I'm not interested.
Life. My best friend in the world, I met when I was 4, Mary Wigmore.
You mean to tell me she's not famous and she's your best friend in the world?
She's not famous.
Why would you waste your time with Mary Wigmore? Are you crazy?
Because she's the greatest human ever.
But you have famous friends, right?
I do. I have some famous friends, and I have mostly not famous friends.
Who's your most impressive famous friend that I would be excited about?
I can't believe you did that. First of all, you don't even know if you watched. You said you were going to do it.
Oh,
you're a liar. I'm a compulsive liar.
Hour and a half. I have not taken a break. Spread the word about Sirius. We do not take commercial breaks that often. Let's go ahead to Randy.
I'll go out with her.
Okay.
Okay, good. I'll go out with her.
He's under duress here.
I would.
With a girl.
I would go out with her.
Yeah,
I don't understand it.
First of all, you wouldn't.
No, first of all, you're in a different situation. I got 3 girls at home. My daughter.
What does that mean?
I'm 53 years old. All my girls, when they were young, were in love with black people. I went to visit Ashley at summer camp, and she had a big poster of Usher over her bed.
Oh, yeah?
Usher.
And, it's a little startling. I go, what's this? And she goes, oh, my God, isn't he the hottest thing? And I went, oh, yes, very much so.
Oh, he's very hot.
Very hot. What? I have to get rid of the wrap-up show because, and I'll tell you why. The purpose of the wrap-up show is not to sit there and criticize me. Whatever I'm doing is so that everyone here can make a living. He's doing both things simultaneously.
You may not be totally XY.
That's right.
You could be XXY.
I might be a tranny or a shim, a he-she, or something like that.
I don't believe it.
Why?
I don't believe your results.
Why?
Because you spent all your life with Ralph and he's gay. How can a heterosexual man spend his life with a homosexual?
First of all, you're trying to be funny. Second of all...
I told you he has this theory that you're gay.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. Ralph is my friend. Ralph and I don't spend when's the last time we got together socially? I can't even remember. Believe me, I know one thing. If it was a choice, I'd be gay. Because it'd be a lot easier.
Judith Regan has her own theory.
I think Howard collaborates better with women because he's gay. I actually think that Howard is a gay man trapped in a straight man's body. And Howard works with women, at least he worked with me, the way I've worked with most of my gay authors over the years.
Oh, I watched that horrible movie that won the Oscar.
I knew you would not love Parasite,
God.
and Parasite is one of the greatest movies ever made.
Ding dong 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 ding dong.
You didn't get to the good part. There was a setup.
I watched the whole movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is QF, a podcast about Howard Stern. I'm your host, Fillmore, a.k.a. Jim Fix, and with me for the second round of Back to Stool is Mr. Len Yung. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Well, it's always good to have a person. What's that expression? Don Rickles said? He goes, "It's nice to see a person of your heritage sitting up."
Love Don.
Yeah,
there's always time for a Don Rickles quote in my life.
Oh, and endless. So, guys, we're going to continue where this left off with some the buddy calling in and talking about his high school age kid being inspired by Howard, which hopefully doesn't mean now he's into scat and just get he loves American Idol. Yeah. But we are going to take a detour into the wrap-up show pretty soon, and there's a second segment that has to come back into. So it wasn't just like one segment of the show. It was brought back like a reprise, and then it went into the wrap-up show.
Well, tell him I'm pulling for him. I feel sorry for him if he goes into this, but we'll see.
Well, I got to defend. Every day I've got it's a fight against his mother to say that, hey, I allow him to listen to you. He gets a lot out of it, and I just wanted to let you guys.
Nothing wrong listening to us. We are very educational.
So I appreciate you all. I love the show. So
Dave, I'd love to talk wrong, but I'm in the middle of planning a shooting range in my kitchen. I'll see you later.
That's a great idea, Howard.
Thank you. Yeah, if you could help me build that, thank you.
Got it.
Right. I'll spend all kinds of money.
Honey, I'm hungry.
I got a kitchen in my bed.
I mean, if I'm going to be down here shooting, I like to eat.
Have a sandwich?
I'm hungry.
The seats in Carrie's home theater.
I cannot believe. I would never imagine in a million years. John puts together sort of a lineup for the show. I would never imagine in a million years that the top item to talk about would be the home theater.
It is. That was the big controversy.
It was like an hour, and it was like 5 after 8, and we were still talking about it, except for the 20 minutes that he yelled at Benji.
But Benji got it after you. You
right. So it was an hour and 20 or an hour and 30 on me, then 20 on Benji, and then we went back at 10 of 8 to like 8:15.
What I find fascinating about this whole show in so many ways is even after they were aware that this is the way it's going to go, someone's going to get ragged on for literally an hour. It's going to be a berating session. I don't understand how someone didn't fucking stab Howard in the nose with a fork or something.
I know. I mean, some of the psychological torture, and especially even it gets worse. I mean, this is 2009. When you get up to 2012, that's where. I mean, I had a quick listen to the Hurricane Sandy this morning, and no, I didn't get through it, but I mean, it is incredible the abuse that he put people through, and this is, I mean, it's sustained. I mean, Gary says it's. I don't know what he means by 10 of 8, but is that 10 to 8?
10 of 8. I can't remember, but it was an expression. Even my wife has used it in the past, and it's something she must have grown up with on the East Coast. 10 of 8. I think 10. I think it's 10 past 8.
Yeah, but Gary offered this up in the same way he mentioned that he got scammed on eBay that time. You know, like he didn't have to. I think you mentioned that on an episode recently.
I did.
I thought, oh God, I remember that.
We'll definitely play that clip. We'll do it with you so you can hear it with fresh ears, but you won't hear it beforehand. I'd like to hear it fresh on the show, because usually that's when your best comments, and not you, but anybody's best comments will come out. However, the one thing I seem to recall is that, and I'm sure I said it on the show before, if we knew that behind the scenes he was a really altruistic boss and he treated them like gold, like well, not like family, that's the worst thing they could be treated like in his world. But if they were stars and whatever, he treated them like he would treat, Jimmy Kimmel or whoever else that he could star fuck, then it would be all right. Then you'd go, okay, this is a goof. They behind the scenes, he backpats them and he gives them a bonus every now and then. Knowing already, finding out that he does fuck all for them, financially, emotionally, like not like your boss has to fucking, have you cry over his shoulder sometimes. But if you knew that was part of the gig and it was fake and it was just for the air, maybe the level of cultism would be lower, because all of a sudden it's a work. It's like watching a Kiss concert. They're not really knights in Satan's service. That might bother some people, but I think the average person would stick around way longer and be, the average fan would have stayed a lot longer if they thought they weren't getting mistreated for no reason.
I guess so. And I wonder, the question really for me, when I think about what he's like off air, the question is how many fans that are listening now are really aware. Are they aware of Scott, the engineer's wife, and the cancer fund, and Howard trying to block him, essentially having a GoFundMe? Isn't that how it went down, I believe?
Well, the way it went down was he was allowed to, obviously anybody can have a GoFundMe, but he was not allowed to mention himself as Scott the engineer. So you couldn't capitalize on the Stern Show, which is just like Howard saying, look, you can do these comedy shows, John, but don't mention my name.
Mm-hmm.
As a, John from Stuttering John from the Howard Stern Show, that kind of thing. He used to bug him to no end. Friends of the Howard Stern Show, that kind of shit, because his name was being used. We're like, why wouldn't your fucking name? You should be proud. Why wouldn't it be used? You should be proud of it that your name does generate something. But no, he took it as, I don't want you to get any money off of me, even by by proximity. By proxy. I don't want you to benefit from me at all. When you're on the show, when you're off the show, you're not getting any free whiskey from me at Christmas time either. So fuck off.
Well, I notice now that Sal Governale is doing a show with Craig Gass, some whack, or I always say whack or hack pack, but no, it's the Rat Pack style variety show. So I can't imagine how they pushed that through. I'm sure that had to go through several layers of executive sign off.
What was this, like a poster you saw somewhere, or was it like a Reddit thing? Or
there's a show coming up in May, I believe. And
okay,
it's selling quite well. It's selling better than the Uncle Rico live show, which is the Shuley. I think Shuley's playing a solo stand-up show, and he sold 9 tickets.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's the Stern effect. But
right.
Yeah, I think he's been he never did swag. He never sold T-shirts. He never allowed that. And I think that was a Bookwall decision.
He did and he didn't. As soon as Private Parts came out, I mean, 4 different CD covers for the album, the soundtrack. When he had his book Miss America come out in paperback, all these 8 color photos, but none of the original photos in the hardback. And different covers as well. Like you can collect them and it makes a poster. He sold pay-per-view stuff on video, pay-per-view stuff. He went for big ticket items. It wasn't just T-shirts and whatnot. And with the Private Parts Blitz, there was all kinds of shit there. I looked online. Someone on eBay was selling, remember those old shitty ghetto blasters? They'd be like Sanyo or something, all plastic, every single part of it plastic, except for maybe the mechanism. And double cassette, like high-speed dubbing. You probably lose your tapes in record time. And it had Private Parts, Howard Stern's Private Parts on it.
Wow. Yeah.
So
I can't imagine there's many of those still functioning today.
No, much like the staff isn't functioning very well. So he definitely did sell people all kinds of shit. He just doesn't want to actually admit. And the other thing is, if he never sold tchotchkes like he calls Jackie's swag, why does he have a warehouse of shit? What is this? A warehouse of doodles?
Yeah.
A warehouse of boiled potatoes you never got around to eating? Come on.
But I think he did sell, did he? Maybe I'm wrong, but he did sell Howard Stern branded stilettos, did he, at one point?
I don't know if they were branded. I think they were just swag from the company.
Okay.
One of my favorite stories was Jackie talking about how he got a Canon, like Ixus or like one of those power shots, the old digital point and shoots, and with no case, no bag. And most of those had something velvety to cover it, like a Crown Royal bottle. And he said he took it down to the whatever the department where this stuff was swag is located, and he said, "Is it missing one? Like, did I get one? Why did I get one without it?" He was told by the people there, if it's a promo item, it doesn't come with a bag. Howard had given them to everybody, and they were just. It was infamous. There was an infamous story about Bob Hope, that he always got stuff from General Electric or swag from, whatever it was, Ford, Chevrolet, whatever, just swag. And he told his writers when he came to the house for Christmas, go into this room and pick whatever you want from there, take it. It was just his swag that he got from the companies. He didn't have to pay for a nickel of it. Wow. And that's how generous he was. Like, now, mind you, that might be generous if it's a car.
Sure. Yeah.
But are you losing a dime? How generous can it really be if you think about it?
Yeah. Bob Hope. I mean, there's some stories about Bob Hope. I do love those old showbiz stories. The one in the Carson book I read recently was when Carson was hosting a president inauguration ball. Carson or Bob Hope walked up to him before and handed him a note of paper and said, "There's some ideas. Got some jokes for you." Yeah. He walked away, and Carson muttered, "Son of a bitch."
It's funny. He hated Bob Hope because he knew how bad he was to his writers and how lazy he was, and it was just, and probably saw a little of himself in it because he was a philandering asshole just as much as Bob Hope was, but he also hated the fact that he would come in the middle of a Carson show to promote something and be bored, like just read these old jokes. It wasn't free. It wasn't like casual conversation. He had pre-scripted. Everything was pre-scripted, and Carson hated that for the most part. When it was conversation, if he had sketches, of course, everything was rehearsed or what have you. But he hated Bob because he goes, "I don't know anybody who's a close personal friend of Bob Hope." But ironically, it's the same thing you could say about Carson for the most part. A lot of people were not close to him, so I think it was a case of like a little bit of mirroring and hating what you see.
Yeah. I think with Bob Hope, one of those examples of knowing when to get off the stage as well. I think.
Oh yeah.
I even remember it when I was younger. He was appearing, and you would kind of wince watching him because he wasn't fully there. I mean, that's the same as Howard now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Howard should have got off the stage a long time ago.
Big
It's
time.
a similar thing where it's that slow decline that the world is watching. It's he's not doing his legacy any favors.
Certainly not.
Why do you think he was so set off?
Well, as Ralph said, I really do. I think that.
By the way, Ralph, if you're listening, you really got under Gary's skin today.
It just, you know what? I just don't like to be critiqued. You know, it's hard to do this show. We have time to fill. We have a lot to talk about, and it's really the way I feel. And if Ralph doesn't agree with it, it's fine. But I feel like he was undermining me a little bit. But the short version is, if we had guests on today, that conversation would have ended at 7:00. Don't you agree?
Well, eventually it would have ended.
It would have had to end but now that there's no guests, it could go on and on forever. But you know, Howard really, I can never tell with him, but he was acting like it really bothered him.
Oh, I think it bothered him. Jason, what do you think?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think it went on so long because it was such a wide open show today. But yeah, I mean, Howard seemed to be genuinely almost disgusted with you that you would dare put stools in your home theater.
I know, and it's, you know, and I kept, when we first started arguing, I kept making the point, well, that's you, that's your opinion, that's what you think, but you know, and this is
Gary, but you kind of did it to yourself. I mean, there are people that literally fuck themselves by just saying too much, offering too much, putting their head on the chopping block, and then you're surprised when the guillotine lops it off.
Yeah, it's Gary's over defensive, spiky kind of nature here that gives it away, really. And I think with someone like Howard spent decades cultivating this idea that, you know, Gary's an idiot.
Yep.
And I think it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think Gary just kind of walks straight into it and leaves the audience thinking, yeah, maybe he is an idiot. He really does set himself up for failure.
I mean,
it's the nature of if you highlight it, you're defensive, you're prickly and defensive. People just instinctively go there.
Certainly. Let me just see if I can find it. Angry sarcasm. I have a clip here that I clipped not long ago. It was Artie. Hold on, let me see. Artie sarcasm. There it is. Okay, well, let me just play this one. It's from the clip that we're eventually going to play. We're going to cover one day.
But, listen, by the way, considering what I'm going through, I feel horrible that your smoking hot girlfriend went to a movie without you last night.
And then came home.
Can I say something about that, though?
And then came home.
Let's be honest, though.
When he was knee-deep in Johnny Walker Blue.
That wasn't it. There was another clip. But that was one where he was discussing, like, he found out Dana was dating someone else, and he went through half a bottle of Johnny Blue. And he goes, I look like I was in a John Steinbeck novel. And then they start asking, like, what do you think she slept with a guy? He's like, let's not even consider this. And then all of a sudden, it's not the same clip, but it's a similar clip where all of a sudden people start, he goes, so-and-so from Sternfin Network, he goes, so-and-so wants to call, and he goes, can we just do one show without a call or a fucking email? He goes, hi, I'm Robin's Big Tits. I was talking to Artie's bloated liver. He nailed that sort of the Reddit, basically Reddit, forums, that kind of shit. So anyway, I just at the end of the day, I think it's lazy on Howard's part after enough years, like, to not have something else to talk about. When he starts pushing it, and we've had a couple episodes where this came up, when he starts doing it, and this episode, like the latest one released today, the Hurricane Sandy 3, doing the Booey impression well past its expiry date. Just to pad out time, because it's one of those days where, okay, there are no guests, so you absolutely have to, vamp. Read a newspaper. Talk about what's happening. No, I can't do it. I don't read.
Not curious.
No, not about nothing.
Speaking of Booey impression, I noted that Shuley doesn't do his own Booey impression. He lifts, being the true hack that he is, he lifts the Booey impression from Howard. He does an imitation of Howard doing an imitation of Booey.
Who lifts it from Fred? Who lifted the best one? Really, Sour Shoes did the best impression.
Oh man, I was just about to say. And not only did he do a true impressionist will get the tone and the sound of the voice, but also the character.
Oh, absolutely.
And Sour Shoes just got it down. He'd always reference a celebrity who really got the show. Big fan, really gets the show, and he'll reference Steely Dan or something. Daryl Hall.
He called me at 6 to 9, and he'll throw in some Booeyism.
Here's the deal.
It's kind of weird.
Here's the rap.
Yeah, here's the rap on this guy. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tooth in the tube once it's out. No. Yeah, little isms. Anyway,
there's a lot of old Howard hasn't been like this in a long time. This is old Howard. What I say is gospel. The way I think is the way everyone should think. And of course, and having said that, you should never get divorced. You should never take a drink. You should never move into the city. All of the things Howard said he was never going to. Right. You should never listen to an iPod. I mean, everything. So Howard's been wrong in the past.
Now, if you missed it, here's a little bit of the argument. Number one, Ted.
You should never listen to an iPod. That's Howard's advice. You should listen to a stiletto. You get a stiletto, pay through the nose to beta test a shitty product. Don't listen to an iPod. That's Howard gave you the advice. That's like asking a barber, do you need a haircut, really, when it comes to because he knew that the iPod was his mortal enemy when he went over to Sirius.
Well, he was told by early Sirius, maybe I think 2006 it was. I'd heard from different clips in that year where basically they were saying you're not supposed to mention the iPod exists. We're supposed to be pushing the hardware at Sirius. Meanwhile, there were more complaints about that fucking hardware than, I don't know, getting stuff from a fucking Dollarama store. And, like everything's shitty, it broke down. Sam talking about how she had to stick the antenna on the roof, and like it was almost like the old cop cars where they would have to place the magnetic lights on top, and it's connected by wire inside the window's got to be open at some point. In the dead of winter, maybe you don't want that to happen.
Rain coming in.
Yeah, of course, exactly. What are you supposed to do? And then, it was explained. We're not supposed to mention that they exist because they're direct competition, but they were not direct competition. At that point, they were literally just MP3 players. You had to upload through a computer, so they weren't competition because also Sirius didn't offer streaming at that time.
Yeah,
I think I don't think they offered streaming really until 2008, maybe.
Yeah, I remember clearly that Howard had to keep saying on the air, no, the website is coming. The internet streaming is coming. And it was years. And then he also mentioned, what was that thing, Howard 360?
Yeah,
never arrived.
Whale Rock.
Yeah, but speaking of the stiletto, something just occurred to me, and I did see this a while ago. There was someone on, I think it was Reddit or somewhere, I can't remember where I saw. They found an old stiletto unit from 2005, 2006.
Sure.
And they never bought the lifetime subscription. They just bought it and then listened to it and stopped paying. So this guy plugged it in and changed the date on the unit and got Sirius playing.
You're kidding.
Free. Yeah. They didn't have his payment details. They didn't know who he was. So obviously either the device or the software or even the way the
hardware.
Yeah. So anyone out there, if you have an old stiletto,
I've heard that before from people that had boom boxes. They found it at a garage sale, and they said they played it. Must have had a lifetime subscription. But the problem was there was a class action lawsuit, I believe, against them because the lifetime subscription, there was wording that they, I think, inserted after the fact that, it only applies to the lifetime of the device. And knowing you sent them a certified piece of shit that it's going to break down in less time than the lifetime of anybody, including the Howard Stern, then you all of a sudden you're going to sell someone the same product twice. I mean, that's a shitty way to do business. Yeah, just recently, Phil Mora, the stuff I use for editing, it's a software. It's like, Adobe or Photoshop, whatever. It basically, or what do you call it? Lightroom and all that crap. And, Final Cut Pro, that kind of shit. And they said, I paid for a lifetime membership, basically, that I could use on any device at any time. And they announced that, oh, no, you're not going to be able to get any more updates anymore. You're going to have to buy a new one. And everybody flipped because they changed the wording in the middle of, like after the fact. And it's like, no. And then I didn't know anything about it. My stuff updated just fine. But I looked on it after the fact and I go, okay, on principle, you would lose a large chunk of your people if that was the case, because the whole point was it was standalone software. You bought it, you could update it, but you didn't have to pay subscriptions like Adobe stuff. So they rescinded it. They said, okay, no, we didn't mean that. Oh, we're going to just change the wording. But they've since lost so much of the confidence of their customers that they're probably in free fall.
Oh, no doubt. And you'll remember a time when you bought a piece of software, there weren't really any updates. This is maybe in the 90s, late 90s. You got the CD and you got on the back of the box, you got a serial number.
Yep.
And that would still work. I actually used a serial number from about 2001 a while back, and it worked.
Oh yeah.
Skip registration. It's hard coded into the software. There's no DRM. There's no online, always online. So this is only going to get worse as we go on. Like we all listen to music on Spotify, or not all of us, but some of us do. We don't own it. We don't own the movies we watch on Netflix. That can all be shut off.
Yep. What I've been doing actually when it comes to movies that I think are out of print, or I just don't want to hold on to the hard. I don't want to waste the hard disk space or external hard drives. I have a couple of YouTube channels and I upload movies onto there and I keep it private. So anytime I want to watch it, all I need is the internet, working internet, and I can go into my own channel and boom, there it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure Howard still has his collection of movies that are on Beverly Hills Cock and whatever else he watches.
Yeah,
he has them under safe lock and key in his man cave.
No kidding. Yeah,
aptly titled.
Yeah, Anal Rampage, Volume 779.
If I had to sit in a stool, I wouldn't sit there.
Well, then you
Who
have
chooses
to
sit for hours on a stool in a movie?
First of all, it's incredibly comfortable. The stools, they're not
Is there a back on them?
High back leather chairs. I sat in them for the other week, and they're very comfortable.
You sat instead of sitting in the comfortable chair. You
well,
sat
because I had a bunch of people over. This is the whole thing. This is another one.
So you couldn't even get the good chair.
My wife is like, "Well, we invited people over." I'm like, "Fuck them. Let them sit."
Now
in the
listen,
stool.
I'll tell you why I'm right and he's
All
wrong.
right, now you are right.
Yeah,
but it was fine.
Gary goes, "Shit, I want to sit in my comfortable chair." And his wife goes, "No," and rightly so. She goes, well, "Our guests should get the comfortable chair. You sit in the shitty chair.
Right.
But
why should there be a shitty chair?"
But you didn't ask me at the end of the story. You didn't ask the end of the story.
What's the end of the story?
It turned out it was very comfortable.
Yeah.
But you weren't sure?
Now I know.
Yeah. All right, so from now on, in your theater, even when it's empty, I want you to sit in the stool.
Do you think people in the audience are annoyed that we're comparing our home theater?
No, I'm not comparing any homes. I'm saying you put in a home theater, and you put in stools. That's stupid.
But if I only put in stools.
Incidentally, guys, we know we played this before, but they're playing it on the wrap-up show to give people the taste of what Gary went through initially. And this also, I guess, is good for reminding you if you didn't listen to the first episode or it skipped past you. So we'll continue.
I didn't think it was that bad, but I would be bummed if I had the stool.
Did you realize you buried yourself with that comment right there?
Which one? About
saying when people came over, I sat the stool.
Right. Listen, I was attacked by a guy who can't make up his mind about anything, a heroin addict and a woman who spent $2,400 on wine. Enough said.
that wasn't off the cuff.
No,
there's no way that was off the cuff. And
No
I love
chance.
how they always go like with Howard, it's a guy who can't make up his mind about anything, and with Artie, it's a heroin addict. They always go to the Artie always got that thrown at him, the heroin addict, or your father fell off a roof. That always annoyed me with Sal.
Right.
Sal wrote some brutal song parodies. He wrote one for High Pitch Mike once and got High Pitch Mike to sing it about his father being dead and falling off the roof. And then
follow your dad, I think was the big finale. That was during the fight or just before the fight.
Yeah. And then Artie says your stand-up needs work, and he cries like a baby.
Mm-hmm. Now Marty's wanted to take his own advice. His stand-up also needed work, but he did have some. He had to. Generally, his stand-up's like C level at best. It really is. It is quite hacky. He had some good one or two bits, but it's just way too much show stuff. If you've seen, like, that's why a lot of people that used to complain about his comedy shows, it was number one that he was fucked up, and they just wanted to buy him drinks. They just wanted to be with him. He would have been better off doing like Artie Con or something. He should have literally showed up, just talked to people, answered questions, Q&A kind of thing, and tell some stories, and he would have been better off, I think.
I loved the time when a caller called in and said, Artie, I went to see Artie, and it was the exact same set that I saw from a year ago. And Artie said, well, don't go and see me twice then.
Yeah. That's at least a good joke.
Yeah.
He was brilliant off the cuff. It's just a pity he couldn't translate that into full-fledged bits, like for the most part. And the other thing was, of course, the advent of MP3 cutting and stuff like that. If you took a bit that you like let's say High Pitched Mike going to Disneyland, and Artie had made a bit about that, you would have most likely heard that bit on replay if you were a super fan a billion times. So by the time you go to see him in concert, you're like, oh God, not this.
Yeah.
And
look, I think you're dead right about his stand-up. I watched It's the Whiskey Talking was the last thing I saw. I just thought it was terrible. If you put that next to his PSA for George Takei, it's a world of difference. That PSA is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. That's him at his best, in my opinion.
Bunny Ranch Fetish Revisited reviewing the American Idol show. That's a good one too.
That horrible country music.
Your show was horrible. I in all fairness, I couldn't even listen to a show. Let him fly solo. And
a bit mixed on her. She was followed by Lisa Tucker. And, she probably is going to make it into the final 12. But she did it as good as she had done previous weeks. And then there's also... Give me a second here. I'm actually reading these off of what I've written.
You're kidding.
Duncan was laughing. I'm reading.
The best part. Hold on. I think it's
last night.
Here's Eric the Midget.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
Has his friend performing, the 13-year-old girl, I think.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can bring this up.
Welcome back to the wrap-up show. It's Brian Dunkelman sitting here with Eric, the actor, American Idol expert. Eric, let's talk a little bit.
This is Eric critiquing the Idols.
Oh.
All right. Sorry.
About the performances this week. Everybody wants to hear your critique.
All right. Last night, the first performer was Paris Bennett. She sang a song by Miami Sound Machine. Didn't exactly sound as good as previous weeks for her.
Yeah, it was a difficult song choice, I thought.
Yeah.
They all nailed him for the same thing.
It flows better than Wiggy does these days, that's for sure.
Oh, it's fantastic.
There was one time where Eric was, I think Gary came into the studio and said, Eric, have you been messaging this celebrity, calling her house or something like that? And Eric's like, no. And they eventually kind of got it out of him. And he kind of said, I was just trying to be friendly. And Artie chimes in and says, your idea of friendly is society's definition of a first-degree felony.
First-degree felony.
I think Howard's point was, if I could play devil's advocate, if I'm for here, that you basically have the equivalent of a bitch seat in your theater, basically seats that people don't want to sit in, but it's because there's better seats available. So Howard's just questioning, why would you put seats in that?
Because they serve a different function, and sometimes people, like during the Super Bowl, people will want to sit there, they will want to eat, they will want to have something to drink. First of all, Howard could take anything and spin it out of control. There is not.
Is this reminding you, just out of curiosity, when Sam did the impression of anxious Booey speaking, throwing a bunch of phrases in, like 3 different thoughts, but not one complete one?
Yeah, and he's talking a little bit faster. He's the pitch has gone up a bit.
Yes.
He's I wouldn't say nervous, but maybe he's a bit nervous because he knows that his stance is he's not on solid ground. It's a bit shaky.
No.
Not a kitchen in my home theater, okay? Howard made it sound like there's a sink, a dishwasher, and a fucking ice machine.
Well, what is it? Explain it.
All it is if you can imagine a back row Imagine there's a row of 4 seats, and then elevated up, there's another row of 4 seats, and right behind that, there's a piece of granite, probably about a foot wide, that goes across the back, and then there's just bar stools.
It's kind of like this here.
I see. You kind of sit there, put your elbow up on the marble, you have your drink in your hand.
Exactly.
Like the seats they put on the Green Monster a few years ago, like the high.
Something like that. Not exactly.
If you didn't have the bar there, the slab, could you have comfortably fit in 2 more chairs? Or 4 more chairs, I guess.
Hard to say.
You could have probably put a couch.
I might have been able to get a couch. It might have been a tiny bit tight.
How? Surely he knows. Surely you would know whether you could fit another 2. You'd get a tape measure. Take you.
We figured this out in the first. We asked ourselves the same thing in the first part. Yeah. It's like, don't you know the dimensions? Don't you have the guy come? Did you have them just come in and bring the chairs and say, fit them wherever? And I don't care what happens in the back. Clearly, the engineer was on, I don't know, doing hash. Either he got his brother-in-law, got a deal on it. I don't know. The first thing a person would do is, before you just choose the seats and choose the chairs, you're going to go, okay, tell me what fits in here. What are my options with the space I got? I want to put 3 rows of which is way too many for, unless you're planning on having, I don't know, a football team over to watch something. What's the point? Like, it's not a conference coach table, it's a screening room for your family. So if you're a family of 4, a family of 5, okay, 5 seats plus a couple extra, 5 more, maybe 4 more, something like that.
Maybe the engineer had a slab of granite in his garage that he'd been trying to get rid of for a couple of years.
I think he literally didn't know what the fuck he wanted, and he was told by the guy, "Look, I want a cinema room, but I don't know how to do it." He didn't spend any time studying what they should look like. He clearly, if you go through Architectural Digest or you go through online at this point, you look and see what other people have put in their houses. It's not that hard to sort out what will fit in your own room as long as you got a tape measure, like you said.
2 seats would have been perfect up there. 2 extra seats.
Yeah. Maybe not as comfortable.
Overflow seats.
Right. Yeah. Maybe not as comfortable. Maybe slightly smaller, but still like the same style. But they won't recline. They'll just be like actual theater seats that bend a little. They move a little in the back. There's a wiggle room, let's say, or make it a one of those like what do you call it when you go to a restaurant? Then they've got you got the regular chairs, or you've got it's like a sofa. What's it called? Like a booth.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Like a big wide armchair.
Mm-hmm. Something like that. So, yeah. Instead, you think the slab of granite was going from house to house, like offering it. This guy was offering it to people.
Yeah.
I got.
He went home to his wife and he high-fived. They high-fived.
We got rid of it.
Granite. Finally got rid of it.
Well, you would have to be sold that, I think, unless it was something that he goes, I want something where people can just stand and watch, but it doesn't sound like it's the right height for that either. Because if you want it to a standing level, it should be up towards where your chest is, almost where you can kind of lean on it.
And again, I mean, we probably mentioned it in the last episode, you're creating this area where there's noise and distraction and light, and people can't see because the lights are down, but you need the lights on to be able to see if you're pouring a drink. You end up mispouring a drink and it goes all over
or placing it like further ahead, thinking that's where the granite ends.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll be just like what's the guy, the Nick the Greek in or whatever his name is in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Yeah. And then he places it through Rory Breaker's table. Glass table. Shit.
Okay, well then. I mean, listen, that's the decision you made.
Do you think that Howard is thinking of like a home theater experience is spend a couple hours and watch a movie and then go do something else? Whereas I know you use that room to watch football all day.
Right. We're in there for watching football. I go down there just to watch TV. It's a different room than the kind of room that he has.
Right. And the other thing is, too, you have to remember that you do have 8 seats. So you have to have a lot of people over it.
That's the whole point. I mean, I have 8 very, very comfortable seats.
But you have a family of 4, so even if your entire family was there, you could still have 4 other people in there comfortably.
That's right.
And how dare you do the courteous thing of giving somebody a comfortable seat?
Well, I was against that.
So you're not going to change it?
No, I'm not going to change it, baby.
Well, Daniel in Pennsylvania, you're on the wrap-up show.
How you doing?
Hey, Daniel, how are you?
Yeah, Gary, I'm on your side, man. You know,
Howard's your boss, and he wants to call you this and make fun of you that and all that crap on the show. When it comes to your private life at your house, what is it his business how you have your theater set up? You know what I'm saying?
Well, because he needs to talk about it's. Listen, he probably had that thought in his head, and he just verbalized it. It's not like, as my boss, he can force me to go change it.
Yeah, but he does have a great thought process, which is so funny. You could tell he thinks, for whatever reason, right or wrong, he thinks you made the wrong decision.
Right.
And it kills him that you made the wrong decision. That he
What's
can't
the matter to Howard? How Gary sets his house up. I would give my right arm to be invited over Gary's house, sit on that couch, and watch the Phillies beat the Mets, you big dope.
That guy was actually, that was a perfect bit of setup there into the fucking on the Mets, Gary's beloved Mets. But it's I think once again it's just that whole idea of like it's a type of sadism. Howard knows he can break him down. He knows exactly how weak he is. He's done all the legwork. It's like he's tapped in. He's taken a little rock hammer to a window and made little cracks all over. So he knows it just takes a little finger to go whoosh, and the whole thing collapses.
I think with Howard there's also a bit of jealousy towards Booey, because I think we mentioned this the last time. He is an engaged father, and he does have probably a circle of friends, and he has them over, and they can watch sports. He enjoys sports. He enjoys movies. Music. He's a well-adjusted. He's a well-adjusted guy, and Howard can't do any of that.
No.
Howard will say he watches. I remember he used to always say, "Oh, I watched the game last night." And, you know, some people in the studio Artie would start talking about sports. And within 10 minutes, Howard is bored.
He's lost.
You know, yeah, he wants to talk about, did Jennifer Aniston get work done? Or that's his interest.
The halftime show at the Super Bowl is the most important thing to him, the most interesting thing. And not because of the music, but what they look like.
Yeah, that's when he puts down Us Weekly and actually watches it.
Yeah. And I mean, and I don't, there's loads of guys I know not into sports that much. But you know, they don't care about it that much. But when there's a major sporting event like the World Cup or, you know, like the Olympics or something, they definitely have an eye on it. Howard doesn't have a fucking cunt. He doesn't have he doesn't have an eyelash on it. He's not remotely interested in sports. Okay, fine. He's not interested in movies. He's interested in something he could actually just look at in his bedroom or wherever the fuck he is while he's lying down in that taking that beauty coma, and he wants to watch, you know, transgender fucking dramas and you know, like the 1,000-Pound Sisters and The Bachelor and anything a guy with an actual set of testicles would say, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, I always imagined it in my head as Howard every once in a while would go in to either Sirius or K-Rock. Someone would get in his ear and say, "Look, your rating, your Q rating in the 18 to 35 sports fan is falling. You know, you need to start talking about sports a bit." So on the Monday he'd go home and go, "Oh, shit, sports, right?" So he put on Monday Night Football, and I always imagine him, he's there in a bathrobe in a big bed in his own. His hair's up in the towel turban, and he's filing his nails.
Yeah,
going, this is boring. But maybe he likes American football in the same way Liberace like the Green Bay Packers.
Well, I'm sure Scott Thorson's, calling him, asking him about the game. I think that. When it comes to like when Lawrence Taylor, who is a legendary, NFL player, but more importantly, a legendary partier in the NFL when it was still like the Wild West, Gary used to say, or John Hein used to say, it's, the guest is interesting because of how Howard's interested in them. Again, it's got to be through his lens that it's the person's interesting. No, they either are or they aren't. And the only reason somebody like Lawrence Taylor is really a good guest is because he's willing to talk about stuff. And if you're into sports, that's an extra dimension. With Howard, it's like, how much coke did you do? How many women did you sleep with? the depravity, not the actual sports stuff. He did an interview with Artie, Lawrence Taylor, for example, and Sam and I have discussed this a couple times on his last incarnation of his show that he did at the Comics Gym. He went out of the house to record it, and it was fantastic because Artie knew the era, he knows the sport, and he's had drug issues, whatever. So they both have a lot of things in common, and they're both good storytellers. And like that's where Howard would have been in a daze. He would have been that little golf ball spinning around in the hole, like trying to figure out how he can get out. I mean, it's just not his wheelhouse, and he'd be better off over the years not having certain people in, for guests.
He's the same with musicians.
Yeah,
he cannot. He can't actually understand a creative endeavor that isn't really about money. And he used to. Now he's not. He's obviously tried to change that now, but he'll ask the most inane questions. How long did it take you to write Born to Run? How long?
Who cares?
10 minutes? 15 minutes? 20 minutes? Half an hour? I mean, and I remember back, 15 years ago, he'd say, how much money did you make from this? And that, that's what he was really interested in.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a creative bone in his body. He's not curious. So he is so unrelatable. He's not even relatable to other celebrities. That's how bad he is.
Well, that's it. I mean, he's asking them things that he should know, first of all. Second of all, it's all about, like you said, minutia. How much does your gold record weigh? Do you, when you like this, one of the questions I used to love he would ask is, I don't think he does it so much anymore, is how calculated is your look? When you go outside, do you figure out exactly what shoes you're wearing every day? Like, is it well planned out in advance? And all it was 100% projections. Like, oh, he has to have like a battle plan, like Patton. What am I wearing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Meanwhile, it's all the same fucking black clothing, like the Grim Reaper, and a couple of fucking fruity scarves, and those stupid, pre-distressed boots. And he's going to go clumping around like he's, figuring out whether to invade Syracuse or, whatever other town in Sicily to start World War, the second act of World War II. And I think that at the end of the day, he's pissed off at Gary mostly because he does have all of these things. He is a good father, we think. He thinks. He is invested in movies. He has a passion. He hates people who have a passion for anything. I think it just reminds him that his life is so empty.
Yeah, that's why Howard has these pursuits that I've always thought, it's the idiot's idea of a smart person's pursuit. That's Howard.
Mm-hmm.
I will play chess, therefore I'm smart. Whereas it's bet only pawn in game of life. And then what did he do? He did painting. Then he still
did supposedly
grilling at one
doing.
Point.
Well, yeah, that was a long time. That was like during the Mad Terror years, and grilling eggplants. That used to be a great Artie Lange. Like when you're busy grilling eggplant, because that's something a woman wouldn't throw in your face. But cycling, chess, obviously, photography. That one, we just recently, there's someone on the Patreon who says, please do a photography one. If I did a photography one, it would be definitely visual. We'd want to get pictures of his, examples of his photography and how he's fucked things up and can't do things properly, even with the best gear. It's not about the gear. It's the person taking the shot. Do you understand the rule of thirds? Do you understand, color balances? Do you understand, don't shoot against this, this is washed out. The lenses, they had Jason take these, gave him a fucking DSLR, a shitty like Canon or something, and then stuck on like a, I don't know, f3.5 lens on it in the studio when they need clearly a faster lens to get better, just better portraiture. And then they got him shooting the entire, studio instead of focusing like a close up on the guest, which is what they need for the website.
Yeah, they gave him. I bet what they did was they gave him like an EOS 1000 or whatever that the entry level Canon.
Yeah,
they gave him the kit lens. They didn't even say, "Do you want to get like a prime 50mm for portrait?"
Yeah.
Nothing. Whereas you move around the subject rather than spinning. I mean, they're notoriously cheap. I wouldn't surprise me in the least. But I know Howard did the cover for Lisa G's book. Did he take that? Yeah, so I must have a look. I must go back and see.
I believe so.
How much?
And yeah, Photoshop.
I'd say Photoshop. Photoshop was his best friend.
And his worst enemy, because he didn't know how to do it. He kept using the clone tool like somebody with Parkinson's. Because he would overuse it, like he used that clone tool like it was the best friend he never had, like it was a second dick or something. And with the calendars, the Hampton shots, I mean, there's a whole whack of stuff. And on top of that, he let his website go defunct. He paid for like 3 years for the website for the Conlon Road photography thing, and then suddenly tits up. No one cares about it, and the photography stuff is in like just collecting dust. I get that. I haven't shot, unless I go on vacation. I'm not really shooting any photography much anymore. I've shot everything in this area that in this city that I want to shoot, and unless there's some special event, I'm not going to bring my rig out.
Well, it's a lot to carry, and I think it depends. I just know I used to take it whenever I went on a holiday or vacation anywhere. I would always bring the DSLR, but as soon as you're carrying around bags for babies full of diapers and all that, it's the first thing to go.
You go compact. And these days, phone cameras, unfortunately, they're catching up. I don't think they'll ever replace a proper prime lens ever for a lot of things. Either way, guys, we're sort of getting into photography talk. We'll get through this, but the whole point is he's a dilettante at every fucking hobby he's ever done. And that's a narcissist. They can't focus on anything anyway.
Do you remember the kid in school when you went to his house and you opened up the wardrobe and this is like there's a snowboard and a karate suit and a pool cue and all these things that gathering does. That's Howard.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, way to close with the flourish there, Daniel. Let's go over to Tom in Daytona. Tom, you're on the wrap-up show.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Hey, Tom.
Hey, to me, it's not so much what Howard, whether or not he was bitching at you. It made good radio, but I'm totally on Gary's side. I think there's a couple points. Number one, you shouldn't call them stools if they got, nice, comfy high backs and all. I call them pub chairs or something like that. Maybe
that would have gone over bigger. Tom,
Could you imagine, Howard? What's a pub? I need a pub tutor. What's draft? What's a pint? Like that's the example of a caller not quite understanding. You are barking up the wrong fucking tree, dude. Yeah, nomenclature is also Howard's, one of his many enemies.
Well, I know what you're trying. I know what you're going for.
Chairs with long legs.
Pub chairs. You go pub. What are you doing? You have a fucking pub in your home theater?
Listen, also, I think, like John was saying, you watch sports down there. Maybe for movies, you'd want to sit in those nice chairs, but for sports, especially something like the Super Bowl, you're up and moving around, you're grabbing snacks, and it's almost like being in a sports bar. I like to stand up half the time. I think those high chairs or stools, whatever you want to call them, is perfect for that.
Well, the hard part for me is that I love it. I have no issue with it. So the only issue is that somebody I work with who's got a microphone and an audience has an issue with it.
But the caller's right. The World Cup final, we were out at a bar and we were, it was all whatever hours of the morning, and we were most of us were standing for most of it, just shooting the shit and watching it, and then doing the as you do, and that's the best kind of. If you want to watch it with company, that's how you do it. You're never sitting down like some kind of you're waiting to get your perm,
Yeah. Well, look, if there's a game I'm watching and I'm nervous about it, I can't sit down.
Yes.
And I tend to kind of pace a bit naturally anyway.
Well, especially if you're invested in it. If you don't care, obviously you'll sit wherever the fuck. You won't care. You won't be looking at it. So that's Howard for anything: sporting event, concert, comedy show, stand-up special, drama, whatever the fuck it is. But if it's some shitty reality show, he's going to be strapped down.
Oh yeah, like when you look at the photos of Howard at the Knicks games, he's there to starfuck, and he looks like he looks so bored. He looks like he's waiting for a bus. At those games.
Well, and to be honest, so he hates basketball. He just wants, and he's also there to be seen. He wants those pap shots, and I'm sure a lot of it was Beth going, "Come on, you got free tickets. Let's go, let's go. We don't know who's going to be there." My favorite is the Taylor Swift picture where Taylor Swift's completely disengaged from them, and they look miserable. They look like the kids going, "We are this close to the cool kids table, but we're not on it. We're not sitting at it." And then there's another one with Hilaria Baldwin doing a yoga pose, trying to get a selfie with her legs hove off. And Howard and Beth are going, like, they're kind of getting out of the way. And I remember thinking that was the first time Beth met someone whose thirst overshadowed hers by a truckload.
Yeah, it's like a once in a lifetime eclipse event.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was just yeah. So
but
anyway,
one thing I would say is that those Knicks games, he did manage to get that face on camera. That, you know, that expression.
The one that I use in 99% of my
face of 1,000 photoshops. Yeah.
I've heard people tell me this is long ago, years ago. They go like, I overused the Photoshop of that picture, and I'm like, it's the perfect face. You could not create that face. You could not tell someone to pose like that. And the other one was Beth laughing in the middle of a laugh, and so I can't remember the photographer's name was Rich something, and it was at some like P. Diddy party, and she looks. At the old place there was a Photoshop thread where some of these guys were geniuses. They managed to put it in like as Margaret Hamilton from the Wicked Witch of the West. They made it into the Mona Lisa. They rendered it, all the things you can get from the Reface app now very easily, but they put it together. And some of the album covers that came out of it were fantastic.
That's the one where she's kind of leaning forward, laughing
like
with
that.
somebody. Yeah. And there's one Howard did that kind of thing quite closely, a similar stance, and he's laughing and he's standing beside Weinstein.
Yes,
at some party,
but he's leaning forward, like, well, he's slouching forward, of course. And Beth's got her Stepford uniform on, and she's sort of clutching this person. Harvey looks like a guy that just crashed the party. He looks like one of the caterers decided, you know. Do you mind if I stick around? It's hard to say who's more repulsive. They're both repulsive, but Harvey's just one of the ugliest human beings in the business.
Yeah, and he's got that big belly with almost like he's wearing a t-shirt, and you're kind of looking for a ketchup stain on it almost. He does that. Yeah. He looks totally out of place.
Right. He looks like Stuttering John started looking as soon as he started releasing a podcast. You kept looking for cockroaches in the frame, whether or not they were there or not. They're probably scared. He's probably too scared. Like, this place is too dirty even for us. We're leaving. Yeah. We're gonna go somewhere where, you know, we can get something to eat, not the corpses of other fucking dead cockroaches here. Anyway, guys, sorry if I piqued your interest. There's only 7 videos on Stuttering John's channel, so you'll have to dig those up.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's his show and it does make good radio, but I'm on your side, dude.
Well, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Are you going to put up pictures on the web?
I'm going to try to take some tonight when I go home.
Yeah.
Chris in New York, you're on the wrap-up show.
Yeah, how you doing? Hey, Gary, I was proud of you because for years you've always taken the beatings and you stood right back up to him as soon as he started with you. And I'm on the same page as the other callers. A, we'd love to have the home theater, and good for you to put that stand-up bar, like the guy said about like up in Fenway Park. Behind the seats would be absolutely perfect for watching the game. And like you said, most guys driving in the car through the snow today are like, I'd love to have a freaking home theater.
I thought
that guy's a great caller. He would call in quite often. He's from New Jersey. I already sussed it out one day. He said he was in finance or something. He stopped calling eventually, or they stopped having him in. But he's always quite, even though he sounded, you know, like a guy who runs a pizza joint, he was quite erudite and succinct in his thoughts when he called in.
For a split second, I thought it was double A. It does have a slight
a little of that, yeah.
Obviously, very different. Very different in terms of the call, but
right. He's not going. How's it going? What's going on?
I never knew Inner Beauty until I saw him.
That was incredible. I couldn't believe I never knew what Inner Beauty was. I think is what he said until I met the beautiful Beth O.
And that might be the best picture ever. Him next to Beth's getting that Yoda book. Like they don't even look like they're on the same planet. They're not even the same species, you know.
He's missing a few teeth, I think, by that stage, and he has the hair greased back. He uses more grease in that hair than Howard does.
Jesus. Anyway, let's continue.
Came across as a little bit like, you know, but I think that Howard figured that fucking with me trumps, you know, whether we think it's too much of a conversation.
You tried to get him on his quote about the Super Bowl. If he has time to watch the Super Bowl, you tried to get on it. He jumped all over you, but
right.
Figure out one. He leaves there Thursday at 11 o'clock. The Super Bowl is 6:30 on Sunday. The man's got 4 days off.
He clearly has not enough time to play chess.
Gary's loving it because now he can actually have his say, and I don't blame him. You know, arguing with Howard.
Howard's getting his nails done.
Yeah,
at 6 p.m. on a Sunday.
Right.
Hey, I did want to ask one different question though.
Sure.
Back in the day, when Sal took all his beatings for the roast and all of that good stuff, the prominent excuse was that Beth was not part of the show. But now that she's on the hallway show, and all we're doing is talking about her and on her guest appearances on TV. Any chance we can get Sal back in and do some of that great horseface humor he was doing?
You have to ask Sal, but
you pointed that out when you heard that.
Oh God! It's not even the horse; it's the get some of that great horseface stuff.
Yeah,
I can just imagine Howard at that point in the back of the limo, like fucking his phone across the phone, listening to this.
And you know he listens to this like he listens to it like it's the call to prayer at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
He's devoted because he's definitely wanted to hear what he can use against them the next day.
Oh yeah.
And so
he used to call in, didn't he, to the wrap-up show occasionally?
Occasionally he did, and we're going to be covering one of those examples when he gives Jon Favreau shit about the swag from Iron Man he gave him, and that I told Sam, look, I thought it was like, you know, a day in a wrap-up show, that kind of thing. I think I have like 2 hours of audio. It's another saga, but I will say, isn't it kind of telling that? Number one, the Beth being propped up as this great beauty, like this world-class beauty and this model and all that bullshit, all it served to do was spawn an entire army of people who, whether they were good-looking themselves or not, all agreed that Beth this is overblown bullshit, and we need to poke holes in this rubber a little bit, because they were getting sick of the promo, and they're also like, she isn't that good-looking, guys. She isn't, so stop saying it.
And I think the reason why the Sal joke is still, you know, fresh in people's minds and referenced is that I suppose it's like when you're in school, you will always find the funniest thing will always be the thing that you're least allowed laugh about. And Beth was held in there was never any negative comments towards her. She was like some kind of a saint, you know, Mother Teresa. And then suddenly, out of the blue came that line, and it was almost like a release. Yes, among all the audience, and like this caller said, now the dam has burst. Can we just rip the piss out of her?
Yeah, of course. And I think Gary, of course, trying to sidestep that one as thoroughly as possible.
But I don't think Sal's up for it.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, thanks for the call there, Chris. You got beat on pretty bad by Howard, then Robin, Artie, Fred a little bit, Ralph. Of all of them, which one gets on your nerves the most?
Well, again, the home theater stuff I didn't mind because I'm happy with what I have. They're going to fuck with it. I mean, I was sort of laughing it off. I got irritated when Ralph called in and started bitching about what I'm going to talk about on the wrap-up show today because, you know, he doesn't do anything. You know, like, let him come in here and do the wrap-up show for 3 years and fill all the time and entertain, and then he's more, you know. But Ralph's a critiquer, not a doer. And I'm not saying that, I'm not, like, trashing him. Ralph's better.
He's a critic?
He's better as a critic than to actually do something. And listen, I love when he's criticizing anybody that's not me. I have to admit.
Now, what was going on with Scott the engineer? He says You know he's jealous. You know he's pissed. But he claimed that he was actually setting up Sal.
Right, that was his big, elaborate, practical joke. But Howard hit it right in the head. You'd have to have that thought in your head in the first place.
But what was he setting up Sal for? I don't understand.
To prove that Sal will run in and tell Howard every little thing. But we already know that.
Like, what would be the punchline?
Well, Scott confided in Sal, however he felt, and that knowing that Sal would come in and spill it to Howard. So Scott's point was he knew that Sal couldn't keep his mouth shut.
And then, but well, first of all, like,
why question the comedic genius?
Well, Scott
of Scott
said, and Sal said, like, Scott didn't say, please keep it secret.
I fucking hate that John Hein. Like trying to be funny just sounds like a really like arrogant piece of shit.
I mean, he has some neck to be talking about comedic genius. Oh. He is.
People are still asking, why is he on the show? Whose Polaroids does he possess that he maintains some kind of hold on the show? And I'm certain, first of all, he's a Buchwald client.
Yeah.
Second of all, maybe it's just he's completely inoffensive and charmless, and that's what they need.
He is a company man who will do as he's told. I think that's the beginning and end of it, and that's his whole entire personality.
But he will never be spectacular. He'll never even be tolerable, and that's what Howard wants. He wants shit. He wants things stuff that's actually worse than him, which is tough to get these days. Like how Howard, you could get vehemently violently angry at how awful his show actually is, but with John Hein and the wrap-up show, it's not even mockable. No. I mean, it's not like that's how bad it is. It's inconsequential. Howard's is actually like painfully unfunny.
And back at this time, I mean, there was plenty of laughs to be had, but it was nothing ever came out of Hein's mouth that would make you even smile.
No, unless it was something he blurted out by accident, and Artie was able to play off it and give him shit or what have you. And I loved when Artie would go on the wrap-up show. He was so fucking good on that so many times, and it was like because you got extra Artie for another half hour, another hour, 15 minutes even. It was great.
Artie used to do a good impression of John Hein doing the wrap-up of the day. Do you remember that?
I've got that. Let me see if I can get it. I think I called it Artie Hein.
Ralph called in and a line of people lined up to argue with him. We'll take a look at Ralph's history on the show and find out exactly what he does for Howard, if anything. The football pool continued, and Crazy Alice took it to new heights. We'll take a look at the former people who used to bet on the show and Artie's gambling record since he started in the football pool.
But the show back then, that was such a repetitive segment. He would have John Hein come in and he would play Rich Nerd, the song parody from the Hall & Oates Rich Girl song parody. And then he would blurt out the same thing, and Hein would forget to turn his mic on, and then they would do this. It was just inane. I don't think I ever even heard anything he was saying. It would just go, because it was all just that familiar kind of lilt of his voice. Yeah. And, it was awful.
Well, yeah, the other thing was, I think, and there was definitely some ill feeling in the back office for the prominence John Hein was given, seemingly out of nowhere. And it did certainly seem like that, because as soon as he came with Sirius, but he wasn't there during, I guess, not the lean years, but he wasn't there. And there would be incredible bitchery and incredible pettiness from the people in the back office who all of a sudden he's lofted to Gary status, or with Gary, because he's a friend of Gary's. And how's he a friend of Gary's? Schmoozing. He loves movies, he loves this. They would call him and they would have him on the show for the Jump the Shark bullshit, and they'd have him on as a consultant for certain things, and he never really added anything.
No, and I think it's one of those examples where someone comes in and for whatever reason impresses Howard, and that is it. That is it. Once you impress him once, that's locked in. It's the same with Brent Hatley. Howard used to look at him as some kind of political geopolitical expert and pundit.
Right.
And
and
no
also
wonder how
his military service and all this nonsense.
yeah.
Okay, like Cabby's military service was, all we did was glean him for his homosexual tales of fucking other soldiers and, fucking the commander's daughter and getting honorably discharged, somehow managing. But he's still like veteran. He still has veterans benefits and he's confined to a wheelchair now. Guillain-Barré syndrome, I think he has.
I heard.
And he's doing a lot. You'll see like video of him or clips of him doing like PT, and he's in a bad way for a long time now. People have asked like, when are you gonna interview Cabby? I'm like, what's the point? You're not going to get anything from him.
No, I mean, I'll be honest. Just my own opinion. I just thought he was the ultimate, the king of the cockroaches. I think.
Yes, true scumbag.
He would, real scumbag. Yeah.
And no surprise, he was hanging around with Howard and Ralph and whoever else at these places until he was whitewashed out of it. So what does that tell you about your wonderful host?
Yeah, I think what happened with him was I trying to remember. He came in to plug some weight loss product.
Yes.
And it was really funny. I remember Ralph walked in and said, "No offense, dude, but you're as big as a house. You're 300 pounds."
Yeah, well, they insulted him, and they said it's clearly not working. Did you eat the box as well? And then ultimately he sued them, and that was the done deal. He sued the show. And it was never going to come to anything. They disparaged the company sued the show that he was connected to. And that was always going to be he was just clearly like pissed off that he had this, he had this in with the show and then that was gone. But really, if you think about it, it was gone after he went and did time for tax evasion. And when he came back, it wasn't the same. I think they just wanted to distance themselves from him because he was a convicted criminal now all of a sudden.
Yeah, there's one other incident that comes to mind, which is the Ron Jeremy sex tape in the studio.
The porn shit.
Yeah, was that after? I think that was after.
It happened at K-Rock, but it came out while it's Sirius, and he was on the phone for that one. It's one of the most obnoxious pieces of audio, because Ron Jeremy's an asshole anyway, and I never liked him. But then Artie at some point goes, "Who the fuck is Brett?" Because they keep referencing this guy that was arranging the whole thing, and they just went around in circles, and they were just a little too protective of Howard for some stupid reason. I think the real reason he was pushed out was beyond that, he knows too much about Howard's quote unquote mad tear in his asshole.
It's very possible. Yeah, very possible.
Yeah, that's my theory.
Secret. He just said it as a mentioning as a comment. I don't understand what the punchline would be if it got revealed.
Well, let's ask Scott. Scott, people were saying that you were actually genuinely pissed off about this situation and you weren't setting up Sal. So what's the truth? What was your plan all along?
I wasn't pissed. I was showing my intern how things work around here.
So the punchline was to your intern.
Right. Scott pulled a practical joke in front of the whole audience to entertain one.
No, I mean, it's cool. I was trying to get what the point was.
No, the point was to see how fast Sal would run in there and start blabbing away.
Did you tell Sal don't say anything, or did you just tell him?
I just told him. I said, I said, doesn't it piss you off? I didn't say I was pissed off. I said, doesn't it piss you off that Gary has a home theater? That's all I said.
Does it piss you off that Gary has a home theater?
Absolutely not.
Be honest, Scott. Really? Does it bother you?
No.
Gary so wants him to be pissed off about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He wants to lord it over him, and he wants he wants him to feel miserable. And I bet you, Scott, really, it's definitely more for Scott. I would love to have one of those things. I'm happy he has one, but I'd love to have one, but who wouldn't?
Yeah. I do like Scott at times like this because he is probably the most normal out of a lot of them. And he's the most relatable to me. I think I'll never forget that time with everyone got an iPod Nano and Scott didn't. They even had their names on the boxes, but Scott didn't get one.
Oh yeah,
but
he
was a likable guy. But yeah, I think Gary definitely has. Look, Gary, there's a bit of elitism with Gary. Gary sees himself as being in the top tier, and I appreciate things more than you, Scott. That's why I have the home theater, because I'm more into movies. I understand movies better. You like TV, but I like TV in a more sophisticated way.
Right. With my Steely Dan records and my, my Bruce Springsteen bootlegs, and, I can, yeah, exactly. My my Neil Young Chrome Dreams on 180 gram vinyl or whatever bullshit. I hate that fucking that craze. Anyway, we won't get into the music thing, guys. But we'll try to wrap this one up.
I would, you know what? Even if I had the money or I don't know if I would get a home theater. I'm not into that.
Well, you don't watch television like John and I. Like, I love it. I knew that if I got it, it was going to be functional because I love watching movies and I love watching TV. But
did you hear that? If you listen closely, he said, what did he say there? He said, you don't watch movies like John and I, and then he stops himself and moves on.
Yes.
So what he was saying there was, you don't have the ability
stuff
to appreciate it on the same level as I do.
Right.
So a home theater would be wasted on you.
That's essentially what the implication and what he's inferring. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I remember years, because I had an extraordinary VHS collection back when DVDs were available, but I didn't care. I don't care. I don't care about music formats. Like, I love the music more than I love the format. I'll listen to 8-tracks. I don't give a fuck. Because we all grew up on shitty gear, so scratched records, shitty speakers popping and skipping, and volume was wonky and all that stuff, crappy needles. But Scott loves sports. Scott's a guy that he was a DJ. You think he doesn't appreciate music?
Yeah.
I don't know too many DJs that don't love music except for Howard. And I mean, when you're off, you may not want to be doing that work, but for the most part, they're very knowledgeable about what they play. They enjoy certain bits of it themselves, and they can tell you all about it. So Scott would get just as much use, if not more, than Gary.
Yeah, he'd have a copy of Hands Up on 180 gram vinyl. That was his closer, was it, in his DJ set?
I think so. Yeah, and his son's band.
He left the money on the roof of the car and drove off.
Oh man, there's definitely I interviewed a friend of the show, and he talked about how when that happened, he was the intern, I believe, that he paid him anyway. Like, he paid the kid out of his own pocket, because he lost that check. The check was gone, and he said, look, I got to do the right thing. That's a mensch.
Yeah, definitely.
So
definitely.
That's why there's a great love of Scott as one of the big circles of the crew, and just as a likable schlub.
Yeah.
That's how, like, maybe he's a sad sack, maybe he's a punching bag, but I don't believe he's not genuine ever.
I liked his outbursts. I did enjoy those angry outbursts.
Me too.
There's a good few of them, but there's one that always makes me laugh. Just when
fuck everyone.
Yeah. So they had some do at Sirius, and they just pile on him. You were eating food, you weren't invited, fuck everyone. And the other one was the 10 times 10 cigarettes. How long is that? Come on, man. He was trying to give up cigarettes, and it was clearly taking a toll on his fuse. He had a short fuse back then.
Oh yeah. One of my favorites was Howard's 50th birthday, and Robin didn't invite him, and then he came in studio and said, she's dead to me. He said, he said, you want me to film this video, but you don't want me to attend? Like, if something like, or you want me to arrange how to film it, but you don't want me to attend, or something like that. And then, Colin Quince was in studio, and he said something like, Scott, I don't know what you're getting upset with. It's a numbers game. I was there for entertainment. I knew what the score is.
Yeah.
Everybody's piling on. It's great. Anyway, well, maybe we'll go through that one time, because it does make Robin look like a real cunt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to have people over. Fuck them. So why would I need a home theater? It's just me and my wife. So, I have a nice den with a high-def TV, and, I'm comfortable. I'm happy with that. I don't need a high...
but you get the big leather chairs. You get the huge screen.
I do have big leather chairs.
You get even bigger leather chairs. You get the huge screen. I mean, I don't know. But you are jealous of Gary, right?
No.
Why could you not be jealous of someone that has more than you? I mean, that's cool.
I just can't see how you wouldn't want
Benji,
that
okay,
too.
in that
Why would I be
respect,
jealous?
In that respect, are you jealous of
Yeah,
me?
sure. I mean, I'm
but
jealous.
not a bad jealousy.
I think I'm part of me's happy for you, but I'm also definitely jealous.
But don't you think there's a difference between wishing you could have what somebody else had and jealousy? They're two different things.
Yeah, I don't think the word is jealous, Benji. I think it's more envious. Like, I'm envious that Gary's got that home theater.
Right. I'm envious that he has like 6 TiVos, and I would like to have 6 TiVos, and I'd like to have all the gadgets that he has. I would love that. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to do that.
Yeah, I used to feel bad about it, like when telling people what I had, and then I realized, like, when I built my house, and I love Tom Chisano, but when I built my house and he was over, I made a point of telling Tom, I go, you see that fireplace there? And he goes, yeah. I go, that was a shitty appearance I did at a fireworks factory in Cleveland. I go, you see that that car over there? Yeah, that's a shit appearance I did in the middle of fucking El Paso once.
This is one of the bits of the wrap-up show that I knew we were definitely going to have to use. Sorry, guys, if you feel this is a little too dry, but the idea that he's got he didn't just say this was money I got from doing stand-up. That was a shitty appearance here. That was a fucking whatever. He hates the fact that those things represent extra work he had to fucking do that he shouldn't have had to do based on his theoretical standing with the show and a guy of his status and the show being as successful as it was, knowing your boss, and he's not saying it, but he's saying, my boss was too much of a fucking cheap shit to pay me properly for doing a producer's job. Never mind that he's an idiot. Never mind that we know he's not supposed to be a producer because he's just a retard. But if you're a producer in any other field, like in radio, in TV, whatever, you're getting paid some good money.
Yeah. Well, if you listen closely to what he said, I love Tom Chisano, but so what he's saying is he wanted to show Tom, you paid me, you didn't pay me enough, and this is what I had to do to get this. And I can imagine what a charming host.
Well,
the tour of the house.
Well, yeah, and let's be honest, Chisano was nothing but like a traffic cop for Howard's cheapness. It was really, I'm the fall guy. There was Dead Air Dave who cut, into the bits and stuff back at K-Rock, but then there was the financial buffer, like Godfather 2 buffer. Yeah, Howard had a lot of buffers. And he probably had to he was the fall guy for a lot of bad feeling from the rest of the staff who weren't getting paid enough.
Yeah, and then when they went to Sirius, that kind of character disappeared, really. Now, I suppose it's, from what I've heard of the show these days, it's kind of come back to a lesser degree with Jennifer Witz, where he's poking fun at her, but it's obviously not at the same. I mean, Tom was a lightning rod for a lot of great moments. He was there to be the
establishment guy.
To represent. This is what's holding me back. Listen, audience, look, this is the enemy. This is what's holding me back. When we go to the new place, you just give me a few quid every month, and you're gonna see something amazing. Yeah, true. I think you mentioned that Gary was getting what, 80,000 around that time.
Well, okay. We sussed out that probably closer to 250 or something by the end of K-Rock. Maybe, I'd say 200, 250, maybe a little less than Fred, who was probably making about 250 or 300 or so. But then when they went to Sirius, let's say everybody doubled their salary, with the exception of Robin, who maybe was making already shitloads of money. Maybe she got a good chunk, but not nearly what everybody else got.
Yeah.
In terms of the ratio of increase. Yeah. So and so Scott, but who knows what the Howard TV crew got extra? I doubt their salary changed that much. Maybe incrementally, but I don't believe it would have been anything earth-shattering or life-changing money. That's for sure.
I used to love the story about Scott. He used to bitch at anyone who'd listen, and Gary said he was bitching at the guy who worked in the car park.
Yeah.
They don't treat me well. They don't pay me enough.
Yeah. The other great part was I was thinking when Scott was starting to lose weight by just dieting and checking like portion control basically, and Robin was telling him he wasn't doing it right, and that he needs to look after his cellular health. And this woman had cancer the size of a fucking like durian growing in her body, and she was going on about this bullshit.
leader of coffee up her ass.
Yeah.
She can't be giving anyone advice.
Yeah.
But Scott, I got to think you'd want to have some of this stuff.
I just said that. I would love to have all those Mr. Gadget over here. I'd love to have all that shit. I mean, but the home theater, no, I'm not jealous of the home theater, but I like a lot of electronics that I can't afford. And, yeah, who wouldn't want to have all that shit? But I'm not jealous. I mean, I'd like to have that shit.
Sammy in Phoenix, you're on the wrap-up show.
Hey, guys, great show today. And I just want to say that, Gary, you're 100% right. And I think the biggest thing about this whole argument is that Howard hears home theater. He can't even imagine what watching sporting events in a home theater entails. I mean, he doesn't watch sports. He's not a sports fan. He doesn't know shit about them. And the fact that Ralph agreed with Howard about that should only bolster the point that you are right, because when was the last time a homo like Ralph knew anything about sports?
And the caller of the week goes to.
Yeah. Well, look, I maybe wouldn't put it that way, but I agree with him 100%.
Right. Well, yeah, man, Christ, he was perfect. Like, yeah. Of course, we support the gay community, guys. We wouldn't ever laugh at that horrific comment. But where it goes to Ralph, yeah, maybe we'll laugh a little bit, maybe a few chuckles.
Thing about watching a sporting event.
Well, I thought the big revelation with Ralph is that he's got a huge TV and he doesn't even have HD.
Right, he's got an HD TV that he paid really good money for, but the only HD he watches on it is a Blu-ray player.
The funny thing is, so many years later, even the shittiest, like, made in China TV is HD, like, it's 4K, that kind of shit. Like, it's just through the roof. I've given away a couple of good TVs in the past, like screens rather, and monitors and what have you, and like LED, LCD, you name it, whatever was at the time. And now I don't know that there's much of a difference like, even from brand to brand. You'd have to go into like Consumer Reports to really see the reviews and see why something is better than the other thing, why this product is better than that one, because I can't really tell the difference after a while.
No, you can't. The only thing I can tell, like, you can really see it when you go into a electronic store, is whether it's OLED or LED, and depending on the cost of the TV, the nits are higher and you'll just get this much sharper image. But the price now is just fallen so much. And I was thinking about this. Around the time, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I do have a HD DVD player.
Okay.
So I got the Betamax of the HD formats with the discs.
Yeah.
Now I ended up getting a Blu-ray as well, but I had a TV back then that was 32-inch LCD, and it was 4 figures it cost. And it wasn't a high spec one. And nowadays you can get a 55 inch 4K for half that with smart TV or whatever you want in it.
Yep, standard stuff. Yeah, technology is a bitch. And like, when you get top of the line, you almost never benefit from getting top of the line anything. And that's why even to this day, like my first laptop I ever got was brand new, but it was a piece of shit because, it was right on the cusp of when they're going to make things a little more compact and faster and everything. And I was just stupid. I didn't know enough about it. And then the next one, used, and this latest one, like refurbished, both of them refurbished. Now I have zero problem with that stuff, and you can get some great deals. And now that they have, like, not just eBay, but lots of different websites where you can really find some amazing things there, and you don't have to get fucked up the ass going into, like, our version of the Best Buy or Future Shop in Canada and things like that to, listen to some salesman try to pitch you this piece of shit overpriced, whatever, knowing that you can shop around. The reviews are out there, Amazon, the way they do things, it's great. I love seeing verified buyers tell you the truth about some of these fucking products.
Remember 3D TVs? Remember there was a real push for 3D televisions.
Fucking hell. I remember 3D being something that never worked. We watched the Dino De Laurentiis King Kong on TV, and we got 3D paper glasses, from the store, and we were told it's going to work on any TV. There was no 3D effect. It didn't work. It was bullshit. That used to be a gimmick back when I was like 5. Nowadays, who even knows?
But he won't get regular.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, Sky TV had Sky Sports in 3D for about a year. They had a dedicated channel for just showing games in 3D so that the players would appear slightly off the screen. But it made no sense.
Did you find any benefit to watching it? Like, did it make a difference?
I only saw it in a store because you were able to. They had a demo game on, and you could put the glasses on and have a look. But my understanding of 3D television is that it was lobbied for hard because if it caught on, there was a way to control. It was harder to pirate, and what the thinking was that if it'll tackle maybe Pirate Bay, because if it becomes ubiquitous, people will find it harder to copy and they'll be less likely to download movies that weren't. That was my understanding of it at the time.
I don't presume it really will catch on for the simple reason that you have to put on the glasses. Yes.
Yeah.
Regardless, yeah. No, the glasses, every pair of glasses, they've gotten better, but they're still uncomfortable and anybody who wears glasses knows it's a pain in the ass to wear them. So you add 3D glasses, and then the steam from your nose that might go up there, it's brutal. If they're scratched up, you get really pissed off. You can't see things quite the right way. One film I thought would be fantastic when we saw it in 3D was that Tron Legacy, that sort of remake / continuation, and it was really disappointing. Like, the music wasn't that great. Daft Punk, I think, did the soundtrack. The story was shitty, and it didn't look as good. You thought it would be killer. That would be tailor-made for 3D, but it didn't. It wasn't that good.
Well, if it doesn't work there, it's not going to work for
anything.
Who's going to want to see like a Woody Allen movie in 3D?
Neuroses in 3D.
Yeah, too much.
TV and HD, and which is. He's being full of shit when he says, I don't need to watch TV in HD. He loves, first of all, there's a guy who watches more TV than anybody I know. He loves Lost, which looks great in HD. Survivor, more and more shows are in HD, and they look great. And it doesn't make sense why, Jason was saying it's like, buying a Ferrari and putting Hess in it, Hess gas in it. I don't know if the country gets Hess gas, but it's like, you buy an expensive car and you put shitty gas in it.
This is the big question: is did he buy that just to watch? I mean, the guy watches what on Blu-ray? A few movies and every other animated feature and old Star Trek that may have been remastered to
Wally,
HD
stuff like that.
And boy-on-boy porn.
How do you know that Ralph
That one we can laugh at safely.
Yeah.
What
was the line that Artie had to Ralph? I think they were arguing about the tips at Nobu that he stole for the waitress.
Yeah.
And you could hear Artie's just getting really pissed off at him, and he just says, go fuck your Star Trek figures in the ass.
That was still one of my favorite things we covered. We'll get Beetlejuice to pick out Howard's shirts. And he goes, and then he said, I'll never forget, he goes, you can live with Sam Simon and you can blow him. And like, you don't say that about, you can live with, so-and-so and they can, subsidize you, whatever. He went straight to that. So they must have known.
No. So yeah, you're right. So there's another time that was mentioned. Scott said, why don't you go and suck on Sam Simon out? And, he said it to him.
Yes.
And it was when the key thing here, it's when are these things said? Are they said casually? No, they're said in the heat of confrontation. So they're said when the back is to the wall, and that means it's something that shouldn't be said, but they're saying it anyway.
Yep.
I guarantee that was the scuttlebutt around the back office.
So what do you think it was? Like, Ralph was a freelancer. He could go from cock to cock, and he could just go to Sam Simon, like deep pockets, or is it one of those things where you think Howard has him, he's got dirt on Howard, so he can go freely. He's got dirt on Sam, so he knows Sam's going to take care of him, so he's loyal to him. Or is it one of those things where, Machiavelli, Wiggy going, hang out with Sam, see what you can get, see what intel you can get from him, because that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I think he has an agent now out in Hollywood on the other side of the country, feeding back information, going to parties,
telling him everything.
Yeah, exactly. And because they have the same kind of sensibility, that he knows that Ralph's going to get the good stuff for him. And I think with Ralph and Sam Simon, I'd say, and obviously, look, it's complete conjecture, but it's a situation where they both like to indulge, maybe, and they were caught. Maybe someone saw them doing something, or who knows where this reference comes from. But it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Oh yeah, I'm convinced without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah,
because a couple of the Yentas in the back fed me that as I was walking in.
Okay.
One of the larger yentas in the back. All right, Sammy, thank you for your call. Let's go over to Tim in Syracuse. Tim, you're on the wrap-up show.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey, Tim.
I love the show today too. I like not having guests. You guys just shoot the shit out all morning. That's cool. My question is, Gary, is that your home theater? Is that in your man cave room that was on TV, or is that a whole separate room?
It's a whole separate room.
Oh, no, I'm really.
Oh, you are rich, huh?
No, but it's funny.
I saw your man cave, so your man cave came out pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it came out. I mean, I love the way it came out. I just feel weird. Like, I had such a good time doing it for those couple of days, and Syracuse was at my house for 4 days. It was a lot of fun. And then the finished product, a bunch of people have said to me, I can't believe you let Syracuse bitch slap you around like that. But I thought we were sort of both in on the joke.
Why would you be surprised? That's the thing he does best, get bitch slapped by his wife, his boss, people that are under him.
Yeah, I remember this
interns.
episode. Yeah, have you seen this film?
The DIY thing. I saw it ages ago when it first happened.
Yeah, me too. And I do remember now that the guy clearly was a Stern show fan and spoke to Gary the same way Howard
would.
Treated him. Yeah, kind of tapping him on the head and stuff. He basically called him a monkey at one point.
Well, he only got his after Artie got his, and we talked about this in the first episode. I'm certain it was one of those things where, let's get some more exposure doing Gary's, and I'm sure it'll be way cheaper because he's such an idiot and he won't know what quality is. And I saw the work that they did for Artie. It was okay. It was nothing really special to me. I'm sure he was satisfied with it, but and imagine, like Artie once again having to fucking put up with Booey glomming something from him, going to Afghanistan. And what did Artie say? I'm glad Nick DiPaolo and Dave Attell had a few fewer minutes because of Booey. But then also, like, they went to the craft party and he accompanied Artie and did nothing and literally got a check from the Kraft family, which would have gone to Artie, like, altogether. They would have just probably paid him more. And people were like, it's quite obvious. Artie, like Gary saying, "Oh, I just wanted to make sure it went right." Fuck you. You just wanted to you wanted to be there.
Yeah,
that was your in.
And what did Gary do at these appearances? Because I know if I was at one of these shows, within 10 seconds you're bored of Gary.
Yes,
he just comes out and says hello, and reads jokes that were given to him by Shuley.
Right. I mean, I would rather see Riley Martin dead on stage, and then I would be more entertained by that than Gary doing anything on stage.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll wrap this one up, guys.
But the people who saw it, they just thought that he bitch slapped me around.
Yeah, he did. He seemed like he was busting your balls pretty good.
He was.
I'm a Mets fan too. I loved all the Mets memorabilia he had that they put up on the walls for you and shit. So.
Well, there's even more since then. I got a pair of seats from Shea Stadium. One of the dream seats from Shea Stadium, and a great picture of Piazza and Seaver on their last day at Shea Stadium.
Nice.
Is the dream seat in the theater?
I just want to call and tell you guys I love the show, and you guys did a hell of a job.
Thanks. No, the dream seat is in the man cave.
Oh, okay.
Laura in Georgia, you're on the wrap-up show.
Hi.
Hi, Laura.
I just wanted to ask Gary, how close is his home theater to the kitchen?
It's right below the kitchen, so I guess I could, if I put a hole in the wall and got a dumbwaiter, I could stuff up and down.
I mean, Howard is just unrealistic, from someone who hosts parties and stuff, unless the room where everyone is going to be is right next to the kitchen. Your wife is not going to want people carrying plates of food around her house and having to do all that extra housework to clean up after everyone.
Well, Howard said, though, what he thought, because I'm sure there is right outside the room. That's where he says the table should be.
Yeah, right outside the room. You could set up a card table. It would look stupid. And again, you have to understand, it's just a piece of granite that's like a foot wide that goes across the back. It's not a...
This piece of granite has turned into a nuclear bomb.
It really has.
Yeah. It never has so much done about so much hoopla about something so minute and so ridiculously small. God,
can we track down that piece of granite now?
You know what? It's the ironic thing is he doesn't even live in this fucking house anymore. He talked about it before when he did the "I Want You Back" video, and got paid 25 grand for it or something. We're supposed to be, and he goes, the stupid thing is that the money I got paid for that was so low, but I needed, to me, it was money I needed at the time, or it was to fix something in the house, and he needed it at the time based on the finances we've sussed out. But he said the stupid thing is I don't even live in that house anymore. So that's meaningless to me. I would rather have something else, instead. But at least I will say, at least he did get money for that thing, as opposed to what he would get these days. Nothing. What? Fucking exposure on the show?
Yeah. That's the new currency, isn't it? Exposure.
It's awful. Across the world, it's still like that. People expecting, just to have, look, the honor of, we'll see if your stuff's any good. The guy who does the Liverpool beat for Sports Illustrated, he calls it's another type of website. It's what basically the Athletic should be, with the bright people covering it. I offered to do some editorial work for them and do some freelance writing, actually, for the Liverpool stuff. And they're like, oh, well, yeah. I said, do you guys actually pay people, or do you have people on chained to oars in the back room somewhere? And he said, well, we'll take a look at some of your stuff and we'll see if I go, you'll see nothing. Like I'll send you stuff. Absolutely. But I'm telling you right now, I pointed out all these errors on your fucking, I copy edited your fucking writers. I'm telling you what's wrong with what's there right now. And they're like, yeah, well, give me your WhatsApp number and we'll get in touch with you. It's like, no, they're probably like a lot of other periodicals that just, we don't have money anymore. We're not Sports Illustrated anymore. We're an imitation of Sports Illustrated.
Well,
they
Howard
don't pay writers.
Howard has been doing that for decades. I mean, the interns don't get paid. They're only there to make, to run errands. They're not there to learn.
No.
And then you have comedians. No one gets paid for any appearances there. And not only that, Howard expects to get stuff for free, services for free, by mentioning it. Nobu and all these things, and
think about that. Like, they have to sign a waiver. All these comedians coming in, and then that goes on Howard TV.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and they're not getting anything for that. Their likeness rights, nothing. They got to sign away their rights to anything. It's bullshit.
They get paid in plugs. Do you remember Bob Levy used to get his plugs at the end of along with vertigoblues.com and
but then it told people he ended up having to pay for more plugs anyway, because it's just a vicious circle.
Kitchen, there's no running water.
Not an eating kitchen.
I was telling John, this is what my wife does when we have people over to watch a movie. My wife will take a bunch of drinks, a bunch of glasses, some ice, and put them up there. And she goes to the store. She gets a big basket. She fills it with candy, like M&Ms, almost like you're going to the movie. So if you want to go up and make yourself a drink and you want to have some candy, it's movie night. Okay, we're gay. We live in the suburbs. Whatever. It's like movie night. That's what it is. But it's not like I have a kitchen in there.
What kind of glassware? Plastic.
Well, sometimes regular wine glasses.
I was wondering, has there been a time when this was sort of like a harmless argument, but has there been a time when you have really changed something because of this kind of thing? Like Howard saying you don't do this properly.
Did you think he was going to remove the area that he had and put chairs in?
No, I was just fucking around.
I'm sure there has been, and it's not coming to me right now, but the audience is usually pretty good at remembering stuff like that. I'm sure. Listen, sometimes when we've had arguments like this, you walk away and you see maybe he does have a point. Listen, even when Howard's right, he makes you feel so little and horrible that it's hard to agree with him on the air. And if you do agree with him on the air, he gets even more pissed off because you're not fighting back.
You're right about him.
What a guy.
Oh, man. You know what comes to mind immediately? Gary got a 3 Series BMW, and King of All Blacks asked him one time, what kind of car you drive? He goes, I drive BMW. What model? He goes, a 3. He goes, oh, 3? He shamed me at work. He said I ended up getting a 5 Series because he felt I should, have something more befitting my station.
Yeah, I think King of All Blacks did that with Ronnie one time as well. With the white, you got white gold, yellow gold.
I did like the King of All Blacks for things like that, because he was just so materialistic and so showy about that. Like, I got the Bluetooth. I got the whatever what was that called? They got the BlackBerry Slim. You know, you got to get the. He was always shaming. What do you call it? Product shaming. People.
Yeah. And I remember one time around like 2000, after the financial downturn, he was saying things like, "There's no recession. Fuck it." And meanwhile, his father was just giving him money whenever he needed it. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. Jesus Christ. He was good for some things. The Miss Black Howard Stern saga was a good one, actually. I did find that one entertaining. And he was at one point he goes something like, if you get a girl that's like Hispanic, you'll have more beautiful babies, just his theories on eugenics.
Incredible. Yeah. He really did veer into some dark territory. Like King of All Blacks would call in and ask some really questions that would really make you wonder what's going on in his life.
Yeah, well, me and Bob covered the one about him, like why do people beat their spouses, whatever, and Howard going, it's because they hate their mommy, so they're beating them by proxy. They're beating their mother by proxy. Nuts, just absolutely nuts.
Point, like if you don't do it the way he would do it, then it's wrong. And even though you're comfortable with it and you love it, it's wrong.
And when has he done that to you, Scott?
No, he does it a lot to a lot of people. I'm not saying he did it to me.
This is the way you do it. And I hate to say it, I love Howard's father, but when Howard gets that voice, that's his father's voice.
Thank you.
Guys, that's the end of it. And I'd say they're just about right, except that Howard takes into a much more sadistic place, and just like a circular saw never shuts the fuck up. That's why the next one we cover will be Artie getting the shore house and fighting Robin and Howard on the air. It's only a 20-minute clip, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this one up?
No, just like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on. Big shout out to everyone on the Facebook page, all the good people over there. And thanks very much.
Thank you, sir, for being a part of it. We're really happy to have you aboard, and even if it's only once in a while. We've been having a little problems with Kayla's sound, guys, and that's why one of the reasons why we need a little bit of extra help until she gets it sorted out. We know that it's not a mic problem because two mics, same issue. It's definitely like a software problem, and we don't think it's fair for you guys to, we can only say I'm sorry so many times before we turn into the Stern Show and like, fuck you, you're gonna get us with tin cans and you're gonna love it. I can't do that to people who are paying for the show. So she'll be back on though as soon as she gets that sorted out. And in the meantime, we hope you guys have a great weekend and enjoy what you've heard. Let us know in the comments and your predictions, and any of the football fans out there. Follow Liverpool LFC. Please let us know your thoughts on the upcoming transfer season. We'd love to know. I sent him a Photoshop. I sent Len a Photoshop of a podcast we might be able to do in the future, and it was Roy Keane based. And I told him, what if I sent it to the LFC site, like the Twitter site, and said, what do you guys think about this idea for a podcast? And you said I might get stoned or I might get assassinated.
Yeah. No, there's certain lines you don't cross.
No, you don't get a Man U player as the figurehead of your Liverpool podcast. That's for sure. Anyway, thank you, sir. Take care, and guys, enjoy yourselves this weekend. Have a good. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe, stay warm, and stay cool.
This guy sounds exactly like I was at a bachelor party when I was a longshoreman. This Cuban guy was drunk sitting right next to me, and this ugly stripper was giving me a lap dance. She put her spread ass right in my face, and this Cuban guy kept going to me, Artie, eat the spider. Eat the spider. Eat the barking spider. I mean, like he was possessed by something. And we were like, dude, what are you talking about?
El Creepo.
What's the spider? He's like,